What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we got some very unexpected news, at least in the form of a leak, and this is coming from Ralph's Valve. Apparently, Modern Warfare 2 is going to be introducing a map editor into their game, and this is not what I expected at all. Now, just to be clear, this is coming from a leak, not an official source, so this hasn't been officially confirmed at this point. But so far, Ralph does have quite a good track record when it comes to leaks for Call of Duty, so I do lean in the direction of trusting this information. And let's get into the details here, because this isn't a full-on map creation tool. You're not going to be able to create a map from scratch from the sounds of this. Instead, it looks like with this system, you will be able to edit an already existing map, and you'll be able to make relatively simple changes with a focus on altering the gameplay experience. He goes on to explain it gives creators the option to customize spawn points, objectives, and restrictions, while also completely changing the scenery and its individual properties like crates and containers on the map. So from the sounds of this, we are going to be fairly restricted in what we can and can't customize. Like, it's unlikely we'll be able to change the overall shape of the map or the borders of the map, even like the elevation of the map or the general structure. Like if there's a massive building, for instance, on the map, it seems unlikely we'd be able to change that massive building or change the topography of the map. But as far as I can tell here, we can shift things around. We can move certain pieces of cover, we can move barrels and crates and things like that around. And like I already said, you can adjust like spawn points and objective points, for instance. So this isn't a full-on like Halo Forge experience where you can start with a blank slate and just build a map from the ground up. From the sounds of it, you are going to be quite limited here. Additionally, according to this article that Ralph posted, altered maps will be closely regulated, and creators can be verified and they will get a check mark if they become verified. So I assume if you've built up a reputation of creating great versions of these maps, then you may end up getting verified, which may improve the visibility of the maps that you create. Now with this, something that isn't mentioned in the article, and this is a huge question that I have when it comes to this, how are these maps going to be distributed and made playable to the overall community? Is there going to be like a featured tab where you can go through community maps? Is there going to be like a list of community maps you can scroll through and you can rate those maps after playing them, and then maybe the highest rated ones, they end up in like a featured playlist for actual public matches? We don't really know any of that at this point. That's all up in the air. And I think that's the part that's possibly most important with this entire system, because if it's just something where you can kind of mess around and make some maps for yourself to play in a private match with friends, sure, that's a cool feature, but I don't think it'll go very far if that's all you can do. So I feel like they have to have some sort of a distribution system for that. And at this point, we just don't know what that's going to be. Now, just to add a little bit more to this from the article, apparently the development for this mode was actually made fairly early on in development during Modern Warfare 2019's life cycle. And that sounds like good news, because that means it doesn't seem like an afterthought, something they just recently thought of and decided to throw together. It seems like it's been something that's been in active development for several years already. And apparently, both Infinity Ward and Treyarch have been working on this. And the last thing Ralph mentioned in this article, which I found quite surprising, is Treyarch intends to have it incorporated heavily into their unannounced free-to-play title slated for 2023. And I don't know if I've missed some leak or news somewhere else, but that's news to me. I didn't realize Treyarch has a free-to-play title apparently slated for 2023, and this has definitely piqued my interest, and I would really like to hear more about what's going on with this map editor, as well as whatever Treyarch's got planned for next year. But with that pretty much wraps it up for the leak. There's no other information to really share here. However, I did want to talk a bit more about my opinions and maybe some of my hopes for this map editor as well. First up, well, I am really excited that they're at least starting to get into the whole map editor scene with this. Of course, I'm a little bit disappointed to hear that we can't create a map from scratch, from the ground up, where we can customize every single element of that map. My hope, though, is that this is just the first step in that direction, and we will eventually get to that point. And if that's the case, then great, bring it on, let us mess around with a map editor, and then maybe down the road, we will get a full-on map creation tool. Now, one thing that I do find to be quite promising with this is the fact that we can completely change the scenery of the level as well. So maybe it's a desert map, and we want to make it more of a urban-style map, or a snowy map, or a jungle map, for instance. I think that has a lot of potential as well, assuming we can actually alter things to that level. I don't want to get my hopes up too much for that, because I may end up setting the bar too high and disappointing myself. But having the ability to change up like the scenery or the tone or the mood, maybe we can have weather effects as well, so we can adjust whether it's raining or snowing or a bright sunny day or pitch black night. I think that opens up a lot of room for creativity when it comes to the overall aesthetics of a map. And then finally, my biggest hope, and also probably my biggest concern with all of this that I touched on earlier, is how they're going to distribute this. What kind of systems are we going to have in place? And will these creator-edited maps ever make it into public matches? Will they ever be in the spotlight? And would some of them perhaps even replace the existing map that they end up adding to the game? What if a creator is able to make an objectively superior version of a map that they already have in the game, and people simply enjoy playing it so much more than the base version of the map? Could they perhaps at least take elements from that creator's map and make adjustments to the map that's already in the game? Should they do that? I don't really know. There's a lot of questions that are up in the air here, and this is just something we've never dealt with in Call of Duty before, because this is just a brand new space outside of mod tools, which were previously relegated to a very, very small community of modders, and it's not something that had a tendency to become very widespread and mainstream. So that's the area where I really hope they nail it when it comes to this. Even if the map editor is fairly basic, we can't do a lot. I think a lot of the success of this is going to hinge on how they distribute this, how they provide options for visibility or playability for creator-edited maps out there. And all of this is just sounding very exciting. I can't wait to hop in, give it a shot, and see what we come up with. And I'm just hoping this doesn't end up as sort of a gimmicky thing that's exciting on the marketing side of things, but then ends up just not being what people expect, and maybe it ends up being a feature that nobody really uses. Now finally, I just wanted to talk about this general trend and where this could end up going, because this immediately reminded me of Battlefield 2042's Portal mode as well. And with that Portal mode, for those that don't know, keeping in mind I only know sort of the basics of this, you can create custom experiences with custom rule sets and custom player counts for each team, for instance. And you can change up basically every element of the gameplay, from player health on a team-by-team basis, or the weapons that people spawn in, and the ability to change weapons, and all of those sorts of things. And I don't really know how popular that mode ended up being, but I do like the idea of this trend where it seems like these AAA developers are wanting to move in a direction of having more player-created experiences, and I think there's a lot of potential here for the future. Like right now, I feel like we're in the early basic stages of this where they're just sort of toying around with the idea, but maybe several years down the road, we will get to a point where the community is creating much of the experience for the game. So the devs give us the tools, and then the creators build off of that to essentially create an infinite supply of content in the game. And the general idea behind that really excites me, because then the community really does have a say in the experience of the game overall, and the experiences that the community likes the most will always eventually rise to the top, assuming they have a good distribution sort of system for that. So that's kind of my initial thoughts and impressions with this map editor. I doubt this is going to be as robust and amazing as a lot of people think it's going to be, but as a first step in that direction, it sounds pretty exciting, and I can't wait to see how this actually works once it's all officially confirmed. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, and this is where I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section down below. First up, what do you guys think about this map editor based on how Ralph has described it, with it being fairly limited but allowing creators a decent amount of control over various elements of this? And what do you think this could mean for the future of not just Call of Duty, but AAA gaming? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.